Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. And today we've got a video on the Battle of Leyte Gulf. We're hoping to put out a couple of videos about Leyte Gulf leading up to the 80th anniversary in late October of this year, 2024. And in honor of that event, Battleship New Jersey is going to have a symposium on board in October, on Saturday, October 26th, 2024. We're lining up speakers for that as is, but we've got a couple of folks already who said they're going to come out, including our good friend Drakinafel. There's going to be an all-day event with talks on the battle in honor of the 80th anniversary. On the anniversary of the actual battle, at least part of the battle, on the flagship of 3rd Fleet from the battle. So stay tuned for more videos about that in the future. Because this is just the first in what will probably be a series of videos, this one is going to be more of a broad overview, because this is one of the most confusing battles to study. Leyte Gulf is by many people referred to as the largest naval battle in history. But it's very rightly debated whether it is a battle or an entire campaign, because realistically, it is 5 separate actions that all take place over the same time frame, some of them concurrently, because it's covering such a big area and there are so many warships and aircraft involved in this action, and the large ground campaign as well. So, for the naval portion of the invasion of the Philippines, the Battle of Leyte Gulf, you have the United States coming in and invading the Philippine Islands over here. And that is intentionally being done to cut off the Japanese home islands up here from what was then the Dutch East Indies, now Indonesia, where a lot of the oil that the Japanese were using and the rubber and the other raw materials were being shipped from. So that's why Japan had to take the Philippines from the United States at the beginning of the war, and it's why the United States had to take that from Japan after fighting their way through several successive island chains in both the central, the northern, and the southern Pacific to get to this point where they can isolate Japan back to essentially their pre-World War I holdings, so they can start to blockade the island and move to the last stage of the war, invading home islands like Iwo Jima, Okinawa, preparatory to an invasion of Japan itself. The Philippines wasn't the only option. The Navy actually preferred invading Formosa, modern-day Taiwan. But Douglas MacArthur, an Army general, had been in command of the Philippines at the beginning of the war, and when he was forced to retreat from there during the initial Japanese invasions, he promised that he would return. And he made an extremely compelling argument for going into the Philippines instead of Formosa. And ultimately, that's what Roosevelt decided to do. Part of what makes the battle confusing is that there are so many ships involved that they're divided into multiple fleets. And the United States Navy had never been this large before, and post-World War II, it will never be this large again. So just the command and control required around this is absolutely immense. Difficult to do with one person. But there are 2 main personalities here. To get to this point, the United States has launched 2 separate major campaigns. One under Chester Nimitz, led by the Navy with large Marine Corps participation, although there is some Army stuff going on. And they're going through both the Aleutian Islands to retake that, but more prominently, the Central Pacific. At the same time, you've got General Douglas MacArthur and the Army and some Navy and Marine Corps units working their way through the South Pacific in the Solomon Islands and then New Guinea and this whole area. And so these 2 pincers are coming up this way. So Nimitz has a fleet under his control, his striking force, which is, during the Battle of Leyte Gulf, 3rd Fleet under Admiral William F. Halsey. This fleet is also known as 5th Fleet when Halsey rotates out and Spruance is in charge. So same ships, just different commander, different number. So there's one area where it gets confusing. 5th Fleet is not here at all, just 3rd Fleet. MacArthur has older, nominally less capable ships under his command in what is known as 7th Fleet. The 7th Fleet is led by Admiral Kinkaid. So, talked about 3rd, 5th, 7th Fleet. Where are the other ones? Where's 1st Fleet, 2nd Fleet, all those? Well, during this time period, the U.S. Navy tends to put odd-numbered fleets in the Pacific, even-numbered fleets in the Atlantic. So that's where 2nd Fleet, 4th Fleet, 6th Fleet is at this time. So, huge amount of stuff to command and control. So, the U.S. forces are broken into 2 fleets. The older, slower, smaller warships fall under 7th Fleet, and they're used to support the landings themselves. So, Admiral Kinkaid has under him Admiral Sprague. Sprague is his carrier commander, and he doesn't have the big fleet carriers that I'll talk about Halsey having. He's got the smaller escort carriers, the baby flat tops, the jeep carriers, however you want to refer to them. And they're broken up into a couple of forces which are known as the Taffies, 1, 2, and 3. Taffy 3 famously participating in the Battle of Samar, which will be covered in a future video. He also has older battleships, a battle line for shore bombardment, supporting the amphibious landings, and those fall under Admiral Jesse Oldendorf. Those are the ships that will famously be involved in Saragawa Strait, that again we'll talk about in the future. So you got Kinkaid in charge, and he's got a carrier commander Sprague and a battleship commander Oldendorf. And they are specifically for supporting the amphibious operations, although they will be used to protect those invasion beaches in naval actions. Because they are specifically for supporting amphibious operations, they carry more high explosive stuff for shelling or bombing land targets, and less of the armor-piercing stuff that you would use in a fight with enemy battleships or torpedoes. And so they have limited capability in surface actions, and particularly they might be able to fight one, but they have limited ability to sustain themselves in a series of surface actions, which is what we're going to see during this battle. On the other hand, you've got Admiral Halsey. He's in charge of 3rd Fleet, and under him he's got a carrier commander, Mark Mitcher, and a battleship commander, who is Willis Lee. They've got the big fleet carriers, the fast 30-knot plus ships. They're the ones who are going to be chasing down the Japanese and fighting them. I've heard of it referred to as offensive and defensive. You've got the siege engines of 7th Fleet that are putting a ring around the Philippines and essentially blockading it. And you've got the Greyhounds of 3rd Fleet that are going to be conducting offensive operations. Hey, the Japanese are flying in attacks from the Ryokus or the Bonins or Formosa, so we're going to go out there and get them. The Japanese warships are coming out. We're going to go out there and get them while these are held defensively. And that's the way these two admirals understood their positions as well. So, that's how it is confusing for the Americans with 2 fleets. It's even more so with the Japanese, because they're bringing 3 fleets to this battle. The Japanese are well known during the Pacific War for having really complex plans where the units are divided, and here is perhaps their greatest success with that, where they're really successful at bluffing the Americans, confusing the American command and control, and getting into a really good position to be able to achieve their goals. So, their 3 forces are North, Central, and Southern. Their southern force is a couple of battleships and cruisers under Admiral Nishimura, and they're going to try and force their way through Suragawa Strait down here over Mindanao and then move north. They're divided into 3 forces here primarily. I did just talk about them having complex plans. Here they really had to go with this because their ships are stationed all over what they considered their empire, the lands that they controlled, as part of their occupation forces there. They don't know, they don't have the intelligence apparatus that's told them where the Americans are going to go next. So they have multiple plans out there. They've got ships defending all over the place. So the American preparations really force the Japanese to divide. And so they have to bring these multiple fleets to battle here. And they work those different fleets into their plan in a way that is really successful at confusing the Americans. As opposed to like Midway, when their fleet is centered, when they have the initiative, and they still divide it into multiple forces. That was a problem. Here, there wasn't really a better way to go about it. The Japanese made a really good plan for what they had. The Central Force is the more modern battleships, the more powerful battleships under Admiral Takeo Kurita. And he is coming through the San Bernardino Strait here south of Luzon, and then he's going to turn south. And if everything goes to plan, his force, the Central Force and the Southern Force, they're going to meet up right off Samar where the invasion beaches are. They're going to destroy any American ships that haven't been confused by these Japanese movements, and they're going to form this pincer and destroy it, and that will trap the Americans there with no supplies, and then their army and air forces will be able to push the Americans back into the water. The final Japanese force, the Northern Force under Admiral Jizaburo Ozawa, I keep using the anglicized versions of these names, where the family name is last. In reality, if I wanted to say this accurately, all the Japanese names should be family name first. So it should be Ozawa, Jizaburo, Kurita, Takeo. So pardon me for being terrible with Japanese. There isn't really an excuse for me being as bad as I am with English, but pardon me for that too. Ozawa's Northern Force up here is used in this battle to be the decoy. Battleships are vulnerable to carrier air attacks, and the American fleet at this point is built around the fast carrier aircraft of their striking force, Task Force 38. That's the force under Mark Mitcher as opposed to Task Force 34 under Willis Lee. So Japan has lost most of their planes, most of their trained and even semi-trained aviators during the previous carrier battle, Philippine Sea, and they haven't reconstituted that force. But they still have these flight decks, and while the Americans may have the initiative, their intelligence isn't all-encompassing here. They don't know the capabilities of this carrier force. They just know that the carrier force has been the main threat throughout the entire rest of the war. And so the Japanese bank on that to use their largely unoccupied carriers, their carriers without air groups, to draw the American first-line units, Third Fleet, away from the invasion beaches, which will prevent their battleships from being struck by those and give them a fair chance of fighting through 7th Fleet, the siege engines, to break that siege. So hopefully that has helped clear up some of the initial parts of the battle, the 2 main American fleets and their many commanders, and the 3 main Japanese fleets and their commanders. In the next video in this series, we'll probably talk about what the various battles of this campaign are. Let us know a topic you'd like to hear us discuss related to Leyte Gulf in the comment section down below. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, also from a number of individuals and private businesses, and we really appreciate that support. If you'd like to support us, there's a link in the description below for ways you can donate to support. Also keep an eye out for when tickets go up for our Saturday, October 26th, 80th anniversary of Leyte Gulf Symposium. You can also support us by liking, sharing, subscribing so more people find out about the museum and our channel. Thanks for watching.